Hey everyone, ready to dive into something really cool?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Today, we're tackling process metallurgy.
Process metallurgy.
Yeah, it's way more interesting than it sounds, I promise. Think of it
Like what?
like being a detective, but for metals.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right, and we've got this awesome career guide from RoleCatcher to help us break it all down.
They've got some really interesting stuff on their platform.
For real, they even give you the inside scoop on, how to actually land one of these jobs.
Which is super helpful because it is a competitive field.
Totally.
Yep.
So whether you're thinking about switching careers or just curious about what a process metallurgist actually does all day, you're in the right place.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher goes way beyond your typical job description. They give you this whole picture of the career, the technical stuff, but also the real world skills you need.
It's not just about knowing your metals, right? It's about what you can do with that knowledge.
100%.
So when I hear process metallurgist, I kind of picture someone in a lab coat, maybe holding a beaker of molten metal,
Yeah, I could see that.
like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But RoleCatcher paints a different picture, right?
Definitely. It's less mad scientist and more like a highly skilled engineer, really. You're solving these complex puzzles, figuring out how to extract and refine metals.
Right, but also how to do it in a way that's efficient and cost effective.
Exactly. And this is becoming increasingly more important and sustainable.
That's what I think is so fascinating. It's not just about digging stuff up and melting it down anymore. Sustainability is changing the entire game.
Big time. And process metallurgists are on the front lines of that change. They're the ones developing these new alloys,
Yeah.
like metal recipes, basically, that have a lower carbon footprint.
Ooh, interesting.
And they're figuring out how to recycle metals more effectively.
Which is huge. We've got to be smarter about how we use the Earth's resources.
Exactly.
So it's they're guardians of resources and the planet.
It's like that. I like that a lot. They are.
Okay, so let's say you're totally hooked on this whole process metallurgy thing. How do you even get started? What kind of education are we talking about?
Well, you might be surprised by the variety of paths you can take.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Sure. Of course, material science and engineering, those are the usual suspects.
Right. Makes sense.
But RoleCatcher, they highlight how degrees like chemical engineering, mining engineering, even geology can lead you down this path.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought of that.
It's more about having that strong foundation in the basic sciences.
So it's about that passion for figuring out how materials work.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop after you graduate. The guide really stresses this. Continuous learning.
Oh, so it's always leveling up your skills?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They even point out these specific certifications, like becoming a certified metallurgical engineer, for example.
Oh, wow.
Keeps you sharp, up to date.
That makes a lot of sense because it does seem like a field that's constantly evolving.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Always something new to learn.
So speaking of evolving careers, let's talk about what that actually looks like for a process metallurgist. This is where I think the career stages section of the guide gets really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So we're kind of moving beyond the classroom now.
into the real world.
Exactly. So tell us, what are some of the things someone could look forward to in their career? What does that upward trajectory look like?
Okay, so.
Okay, so give us the inside scoop. What's the career progression look like?
Well, you're not just climbing a ladder,
Yeah.
It's more about gaining expertise, influence.
So you start maybe in a hands-on role, right?
Mhm.
In a lab or a production plant or something.
Right, exactly. But as you progress, you might find yourself, managing teams, maybe even leading research and development projects.
So you could end up mentoring junior metallurgists?
Yeah, absolutely. Or even leading projects that impact the entire company.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you can even get into consulting, on a global scale.
That's so cool. So you start by mastering these intricate processes and you could end up shaping the future of materials?
Pretty much. It's a wild ride.
That's amazing. But okay, so what does it take to climb those ranks? What does RoleCatcher say about the skills you need to really shine as a process metallurgist?
Well, honestly, the guide surprised me a little here.
Really? How so?
Well, I was expecting, a lot of technical jargon, which of course there is some, but they really emphasize these skills like reading comprehension and critical thinking.
Wait, really? I mean, those are important for everyone, sure, but how does that apply to melting and molding metals?
Think about it this way. You're often dealing with complex data, right?
From those metallurgical tests they were talking about.
Yeah. Exactly. Which, by the way, those tests are kind of like giving metals a thorough health checkup.
How interesting.
Yeah, you analyze their properties, look for imperfections, figure out how they'll behave under stress, all that.
So you have to interpret all that data.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that's where reading comprehension comes in. And then you need that critical thinking to troubleshoot any issues that pop up.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of like, it's not just about knowing what a metal is, but like understanding its whole story.
Yeah, its strength, its weaknesses, the works.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And don't forget about the communication aspect.
Oh, right, because you got to explain all this stuff to other people.
Right. Exactly. Like imagine having to explain some complex technical issue to a room full of, I don't know, engineers, managers, maybe even clients.
Who don't necessarily understand all the, like, the nuances of metallurgy.
Exactly. And you've got to make them understand, like, get everyone on the same page so you can actually solve problems together.
That's such a good point.
And those communication skills, they become even more crucial as you move into those, like, leadership roles.
When you're managing those teams, leading those big projects.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the career path, but we should probably touch on the pros and cons section too, right? Because like any career, there are two sides to that coin.
Oh, for sure.
No job is perfect, even one as cool as being like a metal detective.
Right.
So let's be real. What are some of the downsides that RoleCatcher highlights?
Well, they do acknowledge that the earning potential is a major draw.
Yeah, I bet.
Process metallurgists, they're in demand.
Yeah.
So their expertise, it commands a premium, you know?
Makes sense. But I mean, it's got to be more than just like lab coats and eureka moments, right?
It can be physically demanding, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
You might be on your feet for long hours, potentially exposed to, hazardous material.
That's a good point. Safety first.
Absolutely. Plus, there's the pressure of, optimizing these processes to meet deadlines and budgets.
So it's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's a career that demands a lot, but, it also offers a lot in return.
You get to be at the forefront of like innovation.
Absolutely.
Making a real impact on like industries and ultimately the world around us.
It's true. It's rewarding work.
Okay, so speaking of making a difference, there's this other layer to landing one of these jobs that I think is super interesting.
Okay, what's that?
It's the whole beating the automated recruiter thing that RoleCatcher talks about.
Oh, yeah. That's huge these days.
Because, I mean, it is the digital age, right?
Good.
Job hunting is basically a high-tech game now.
Totally. And RoleCatcher, they don't shy away from that at all. They're very upfront about, how AI is changing the recruitment landscape.
What do they say?
Well, they talk about how, these algorithms are scanning resumes and applications before a human even lays eyes on them.
So it's like you're competing with robots just to get your foot in the door.
In a way, yeah, kinda. And this is what I think is really interesting. RoleCatcher, they frame this as an opportunity, not an obstacle.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do you turn robot recruiters into your allies?
Well,
So instead of dreading these like digital gatekeepers, we can actually like work with them.
that's the idea. It's all about understanding how they work.
Okay, so how do they work?
Well, RoleCatcher talks about like tailoring your CV and application.
To match what the robots are looking for.
Exactly. It's about using the right keywords.
Yeah.
Highlighting those specific skills that the algorithms are like searching for.
Oh, so it's not enough to just have the skills. You have to know how to like present them in a way that these algorithms will actually pick up on.
You got it. It's like learning their language.
Wow. Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, they actually mentioned this really cool tool. It's called the RoleCatcher.Capture plugin.
RoleCatcher.Capture.
Yeah. And it basically helps you like optimize your application for these systems.
So it's like having a secret weapon.
Kind of. It gives you an edge.
I love it. I'm gonna have to check that out. You know, it's been so fascinating to like dive into this whole world of process metallurgy. It's clear that it's a field where like science and technology and even like a little bit of digital savvy all kind of come together.
It's a cool mix. And let's not forget the whole sustainability piece we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right, because process metallurgists, they're going to be essential in like creating a more environmentally friendly future for, for manufacturing and beyond.
Absolutely. They're the ones figuring out how to make the things we need, but in a way that's better for the planet, which is huge.
It's a pretty powerful legacy to be a part of.
It really is.
Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for like taking us on this journey, for sharing your expertise. I feel like we've all learned so much about like not just what a process metallurgist does, but like the kind of impact they can have.
It's been my pleasure.
And a huge thank you to RoleCatcher, of course, for putting together such amazing resources, that awesome career guide.
It's a good one.
It is. So to our listeners, if you are as captivated by the world of process metallurgy as we are, you have to check out RoleCatcher's website. They've got a ton of info on this career path, tons of other ones too.
Definitely worth a look.
It is. All right, until next time, keep those minds curious, and remember, there's always something new to discover on the deep dive.